I have been sitting here staring at the roster, and honestly, the optimism of the offseason feels like it is starting to slip away for us Chicago Bears fans. Today, some frustrating news surfaced that could genuinely shake up the expectations we have for this upcoming campaign. What makes this so concerning is that we are looking at a glaring hole that everyone saw coming, yet the front office decided to gamble on potential rather than proven production. The more details come out, the harder it is to ignore the looming danger. Hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me your name and city below. Let's get into it. The most glaring story of the 2026 offseason is the failure of the Chicago Bears front office to adequately address the defensive line, a position group that remains the Achilles heel of our Super Bowl aspirations. Since acquiring Montez Sweat in that blockbuster trade 2 years ago, we have been desperate to find him a legitimate running mate, yet the organization remains stagnant in its pass rush development. Fans care deeply because we saw the 7th fewest sacks and the 2nd worst pass rush win rate last season, proving that Sweat cannot carry this unit alone. During this offseason, the team chose to sign depth pieces like Neville Gallimore and Kentavious Street, rather than pursuing high-impact starters to bolster the interior and the edge. Additionally, the team drafted Jordan Vandenberg in the 6th round and signed undrafted free agent Jaden Loving, neither of whom provides the immediate production this roster demands. The truth is, head coach Ben Johnson is banking on internal growth from Austin Booker and players coming off serious injuries like Dayo Odeyingbo and Shamar Turner, but that gamble ignores the harsh reality of our league. This approach has left the fan base feeling incredibly uneasy because we know that championship teams are built from the trenches out. The bottom line here is that relying on unproven talent and injury-prone depth while ignoring the defensive front is a baffling decision that threatens to derail our entire campaign before it even begins. As Chicago Bears fans, we are tired of the constant excuses regarding system development when the lack of personnel is clearly staring us in the face. We expect much more from this front office if they truly want to compete for a championship title this year. Bear down. The truth is, this defensive stagnation stems from a bizarre institutional reliance on internal growth rather than proven veteran production. Last season, the Bears surrendered massive yardage on the ground and failed to generate consistent pressure, ranking 7th worst in run defense and 2nd worst in pass rush win rate. These aren't just numbers, they are flashing red lights that the front office ignored despite having resources to secure impact talent. History suggests this strategy is a gamble that rarely pays off in the Windy City, as we saw similar attempts to cultivate mid-tier edge talent under previous regimes lead to wasted defensive prime years for stars like Khalil Mack. Behind closed doors, Ben Johnson and his staff likely view this as a test of their schematic superiority, betting that disciplined technique and refined rotational schemes can compensate for a lack of elite high-end talent. They are banking on internal development from Austin Booker and hopeful recoveries for players like Dayo Odeyingbo and Shamar Turner, who combined for a measly single sack last year while battling significant injury history. This optimistic gamble assumes that the coaching staff possesses a magic touch, yet relying on unproven assets to fix a unit that lacked the 7th fewest sacks league-wide is a dangerous deviation from the blueprint of recent Super Bowl champions. If this team truly expects to lift the Lombardi Trophy, they need to realize that elite defensive lines are built through aggression, not just patience. Betting everything on unproven depth charts and the hope for injury recovery is a risky approach that leaves us worried about whether the defense can hold up when the pressure mounts in December. The reality is that these defensive deficiencies are not just minor roster concerns, but absolute speed bumps on our path to a championship trophy. As Chicago Bears fans, we must realize that high-stakes Super Bowl aspirations require elite trench play, yet we are entering the season with a glaring lack of depth that could force our front 7 to reach their breaking point by mid-October. This failure to bolster the rotation means we are banking on health and development from unproven commodities rather than established threats, leaving the middle of our defense vulnerable to any disciplined running game. Without legitimate reinforcements, our salary cap flexibility feels wasted because we lack the pressure required to hide weaknesses in the secondary. This is where it gets real when looking at our schedule because matchups against power run teams and elite quarterbacks will quickly expose our lack of size inside and speed off the edge. If we cannot disrupt the rhythm of opposing passers, we will be forced into shootouts that this team is not built to survive. Furthermore, this situation fundamentally alters our standing within the division, where our rivals have prioritized physical dominance at the line of scrimmage while we are merely hoping for coaching miracles. Our playoff hopes now hinge on the hope that Montez Sweat remains perfectly healthy for every snap, because there is no viable relief waiting on the bench. If we cannot generate consistent pressure, we are essentially asking our defense to play with one hand tied behind its back during critical late-season games. The bottom line here is that championship windows close fast, and by ignoring the engine of the defense, we have left ourselves dangerously exposed. We need to be better if we want to live up to the expectations of this city. Bear down. The strongest argument for head coach Ben Johnson choosing to bank on internal growth is that it allows the organization to maintain financial flexibility while betting on the development of high-upside prospects. By trusting the new coaching staff to refine the technique of players like Austin Booker, the Bears avoid overpaying for aging veterans who might not fit this specific scheme. On the flip side, the glaring risk is that we are essentially rolling the dice on unproven talent at the most critical position in modern football. Relying on players coming off serious injuries is a dangerous gamble, especially when the unit struggled so immensely to stop the run or generate pressure last season. Around the league, analysts and rival front offices are starting to whisper that Chicago missed a golden opportunity to solidify their championship window by neglecting such a vital area of the roster. Many league experts point out that teams like the Lions under Dan Campbell have successfully prioritized the trenches, leading to sustained success. This is where it gets real for us as Chicago Bears fans, because the gap between having a good team and a legitimate Super Bowl contender is often found exactly where the quarterback is pressured. What I really think is that this front office is overestimating the current ceiling of our depth players, and it creates a massive blind spot that could sink our entire year. If we get to November and the opposing quarterbacks are still standing tall in clean pockets, we are going to look back at this offseason as a failed experiment. We have the weapons to compete with anyone, but the lack of aggression on the defensive line is a glaring weakness that keeps me up at night. Bear down. The bottom line here is that the direction of this franchise hinges on Ben Johnson proving his system can compensate for a lack of veteran talent along the trenches. If this defensive line approach fails, we are looking at a wasted championship window that could haunt the organization for years, especially with the high expectations surrounding this roster. As Chicago Bears fans, we should feel rightfully anxious and skeptical as we head into the season, because games are still won and lost in the pits. When you look at successful teams across the league, they build from the inside out, yet we have chosen to gamble on unproven youth and injury-prone depth players instead of securing a true difference maker. This roster has enough star power to make noise, but without a dominant pass rush, we fear that our defense will be exposed against elite competition when it matters most. It is frustrating to watch such a clear hole in our formation go unaddressed, and we have every reason to demand more from the front office given the stakes. We are counting on coaching brilliance to fix a personnel problem, which is a dangerous game to play in the NFL. I want to hear your thoughts on this strategy, so answer me this. Do you believe Ben Johnson can scheme enough pressure with this current defensive front to hide the talent gap, or are we destined for a massive letdown this year? Let us know your take in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Bear down. I'll see you in the next one. As we continue our deep dive into the upcoming season, stay tuned for more expert analysis and breaking news regarding your favorite teams across the league.